Okay, let's do this. We're going to dive into one of literature's most notoriously difficult novels, Thomas Pynchon's Gravity's Rainbow. Now, this book is an absolute beast. It's dense, it's surreal, it's all over the place. So today, we're going to treat it like a case file, breaking it down and investigating its core mysteries, one clue at a time.
Right from the very first page, the book throws you into this level of absolute surreal chaos. And trust me, it doesn't really let up. It feels like you're reading a hallucination, you know? Part historical novel, part bizarre cartoon. And that's the point. It's meant to be disorienting to get you ready for a story where the normal rules just do not apply. So, with a book this wild, you can't just read it. You kind of have to investigate it. And our way in, our starting point for this whole investigation, is the central, baffling mystery that kicks the whole thing off. Our case file opens with one man, an American lieutenant named Tyrone Slothrop. He's stationed in London during the Blitz, and his life gets tangled up with the war in a way that seems completely statistically impossible. So, on the surface, Lieutenant Tyrone Slothrop's job seems pretty straightforward. He's with a unit called Achtung, and his main gig is to go check out the craters left by German V-2 rockets after they've already hit. He's just a regular guy, a bit of a goofball, doing a pretty grim, bureaucratic job. But then, a secret intelligence group starts looking into his files, and they find something that just defies all logic. When they put a map of Slothrop's romantic hookups on the wall, it perfectly matches a map of where the V-2 rockets will land, days in advance. He's somehow, with no conscious knowledge of it, drawn to the exact spots that are about to be destroyed. Well, as you can imagine, a bizarre anomaly like that does not go unnoticed. It gets the attention of this shadowy British agency called the White Visitation. And right away, two competing groups within the agency start their own investigations, each with a totally different theory about what is going on with Slothrop. So you basically have two opposing camps. On one side, you've got the hardcore materialists, the cause and effect scientists, led by a guy named Pointsman. They believe everything, and I mean everything, can be explained and controlled through stuff like Pavlovian conditioning. And on the other side, you've got the statisticians and the mystics, like Roger Mexico, who are totally open to the idea of randomness, chance, and, forces that science just can't measure. It's a classic battle, a world you can control versus a world you can only watch. And Pointsman, well, he is obsessed. He's completely convinced that Slothrop is just a machine, a simple stimulus-response mechanism. For him, there's no real mystery here, just a puzzle he needs to solve. And he's willing to do whatever it takes to solve it, even if he has to, as he says, open up his damned skull to find the answer. But Roger Mexico, the statistician, he sees things very differently. He's the one charting the rocket strikes as random events, using probability. And he suspects that the truth is hiding in places science can't, or maybe even shouldn't, try to control. He's looking at the weird, unexplainable connections that live right on the edge of what we can understand. So Slothrop starts to realize, hey, wait a minute, I'm not just observing this war, I'm the subject of some bizarre experiment. And he does the only sensible thing he can do. He runs. He escapes from his handlers and just vanishes into the chaos of post-war Europe, a place the book calls the Zone. So what is the Zone? Well, technically it's post-war Germany, but really it's a state of mind. It's a place of total anarchy, where all the rules of society, of nations, maybe even of physics have completely broken down. It's a land of absolute freedom, and at the same time, absolute paranoia. And his trip through the Zone becomes this incredibly surreal, almost cartoonish adventure. I mean, the things he runs into are just wild. There's an octopus named Grigori who's been trained to unscrew bombs, a talking owl, a secret plot to launch a rocket with a person inside. It just gets weirder and weirder, and Slothrop just kind of drifts from one insane conspiracy to the next. Now, as Slothrop is searching for answers about the rockets and his own strange ability, he starts to get this feeling that he's just a tiny piece, a pawn, in a much, much bigger game. A game that started long before the war even began. And this is the bombshell. The crucial clue. It turns out, his strange ability isn't a coincidence at all. It was engineered. As a baby, he was part of a conditioning experiment run by this scientist, Laszlo Jamf. And Jamf conditioned him to react to a specific chemical. A chemical that, years later, is now being used in the V-2 rocket program. And that discovery connects Slothrop's personal story to the book's biggest theme, paranoia. This feeling that you're being controlled by huge, invisible forces that you can't even put a name to. Pynchon calls this network the Firm, or sometimes just they.
this massive global web of power that operates above governments and wars, pulling all the strings. And this, right here, is the core idea of the whole novel. In a world that's run by these massive, faceless systems, the individual doesn't find the answers and become a hero. No. Instead, Slothrop just disintegrates. His personality, his memories, his sense of self, it all just starts to fragment and scatter across the zone until he basically fades away. Okay, so this brings us to the final mystery in our case file. After all this chaos, all this conspiracy, what does the title Gravity's Rainbow actually mean?
And the main clue lies in a strange, really terrifying fact about the V-2 rocket, the weapon that's been at the center of this whole investigation.
Because it traveled faster than sound, you would see the explosion first, and only then, after the fact, would you hear the sound of it coming toward you. It's a complete reversal of cause and effect. The destruction literally arrives before the warning. And that silent, perfect arc the rocket traces through the sky, that is gravity's rainbow. It's this beautiful, elegant curve, a symbol of humanity's incredible technological achievement. But it's also the symbol of silent, random, unstoppable death that you never hear coming. The book doesn't end with some neat resolution or an answer to Slothrop's mystery. Nope, it just stops. It ends with this single, chilling phrase as the final rocket in the book is coming down, and the narration switches, placing you, the reader, directly under it in that final second before it hits. And so, the book just leaves us with this final, haunting question. In a world where destruction arrives before the warning, how can you ever truly know if you're safe? It was a terrifying question back in 1973, and you could argue it's even more terrifying today.